All right, it's ThursdAGE, which means it's Thursday, and we've got so much age news to share. Of course, that all of this powered by the Adventure Game Engine, including our guest for the day, our buddy, your pal and mine, Malcolm Sheppard.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We're talking Fantasy Age, which is coming out with the second edition. And folks are anxiously awaiting any kind of news or insight or input, and we'll provide as much as you know, as is humanly possible. I want to say hello to the chat. We've got Brian F. Irving says, "Evening, RC is here." RC, thanks for joining us today. As you file in, my friends in chat, feel free to drop a howdy do. What was that?
Oh, I think this is going to be a very question-powered one.
Yes, absolutely.
Today,
yeah.
Because, well, I have been working on kind of the end bits and bobs of the new edition of Fantasy Age. And so I have become conversant with it and am here to answer your questions. I know what I'm interested in, but what are you interested in?
Yeah, friends, what are you interested in? Tyler says hello from Vienna, Austria. Glad you could join us, friend.
Oh, that's a great city. I actually have a couple of friends who live there. Oh, yep. And I visited there back in 2016.
Jose's here from Sweden as well.
Oh, and I also have friends in Sweden. And
you're just a global phenomenon.
Well, you know, it's the power of the internet.
Truth.
Vienna, just a beautiful, beautiful city.
Yeah, it's on my list. It is definitely on my list. Derek, you made it to ThursdAGE. Jonesy's here as well. Says howdy. Yeah, so let's start with this question. Where are we at? Are you aware of? And if you're not, and that's okay too, we can find out and share with folks later. But where are we at in our process? I know folks are anxiously awaiting the
We're at the
release
proofing stage right now.
It's improving.
Yeah, we're just finishing up the proof of the layout, and there are a couple of things there are a couple of language things and a couple of system things that we really want to make sure are ironed out as best we can before the release.
Holy smokes! I just got to say this: we've got the ultimate Gabe is saying good day from Melbourne, Australia. We've got Peter saying hello from Sweden. We've got a couple folks from Sweden. We've got Juan from El Paso, Texas. We've got we've got Blue Nova saying greetings from the land of the long white cloud, New Zealand.
Oh, Jose, I should come to Stockholm. I hear that even if bad things happen to you, you
want to stick around?
Grow to really enjoy that city.
What? We got Nails from Belfast, Ireland. Jeff Jones from Milwaukee. Wow, we've got quite a group. And we've also got some questions on the floor now. Derek's got one asking, are there any plans for a classless rules option for Phage 2 akin to the design of Modern Age?
We've talked about it a little bit. And certainly the way Modern Age has its whole design process in Modern Age and through to the Expanse, and even Cthulhu Awakens has influenced how the second edition has been done. However, we also kind of included some things to lean a bit more into the classes to make them feel more like archetypes that are meaningful instead of a kind of bucket you throw traits. However, I would think that you could use Modern Age and a bit of imagination to make classless Fantasy Age extremely easily. So
gotcha.
I would not be surprised if it is a subject that we broach in the future.
All right. Good stuff. RC, chatting from Boston, Massachusetts, has a question and says, as someone just starting to learn Age for the first time, the adventure game engine, how much difference is there between the various games? We're talking, Fantasy
Generally,
Age,
if you
Modern Age, The
know,
Expanse.
yeah, if you know one, it'll take minutes to pick up the next one. The basic task resolution is the same. There's some variation in the stunt selection and in how character advancement works, but that's pretty much it, right?
Gotcha,
I mean,
gotcha.
it's not like there's an entirely new way to do tests or roll for damage or do attack rolls in any of those things. We have from time to time tinkered with the action selection and how those work. Um, Not so much in Modern Age and The Expanse, but more in Cthulhu Awakens and the New Fantasy Age. We've changed some things. Like, for example, there is I think it's called Stand Fast, if I remember correctly. And in prior games, that is sort of like you spend this minor action, and it makes And if somebody is shoving you, you can defend against it. And it ended up being a little too special casey, so we've made some changes to that. For example, that's just a little thing. Um, but all of them are about as complex as one another. I guess I would say I would say maybe the Expanse might be a little more complicated just because of the space angle, right? Because of spaceship rules and equipment and things like that. But any of them are fine places to start with. I would say the way to find out really is to try out the quick starts that we have, and which are coming. So, for example, there are a couple of Modern Age quick starts. There's the original one, and then there's its adaptation into the fully realized threefold setting, and that will give you a basic idea of how Modern Age works, right? And we have different ones for different age games, although not all of them. Though we are, kind of adding to them as time goes on. And of course, part of joining the fifth season crowdfunder is to get a copy of the fifth season quick start right away.
That's
Uh,
right. Yeah, yeah. Now, speaking of the fifth season, we have
Levity Jug Jug.
7 days left.
That's right. 1 week.
1 week, and we've got some limited book plate bundles left. We'll cap that off at 500, and I believe we are at this point at about 100. So running out of those quickly. And as far as the stretch goals, we've got People of the Stillness at 160K. We'll produce a PDF with 50 NPCs from across the use casts, and that will give the GM a supply of named and described characters useful for populating your campaign, which is exciting. But yeah, we're almost done, and what a phenomenal backer kit funding campaign that has been, and
Yes.
folks are going to want to get in on that as soon as possible. We know how people like to wait until the last minute. Let's see here real quick. I believe Neil had a question. Will we be seeing? Oh, here we go. Are we going to see much of an expansion of the number of spells available for each arcana, or see any other new ones altogether?
Yes. We have basically merged most of the spells that we've published in different places, unless they are very, very related to a setting, all for second edition. And we've gone through, and where necessary, we've made revisions to the spells, and we made some revisions to the basic spell casting system. So one of the big changes, for example, is that one of the disappointing elements of it was when you spend your magic points and you fail and you lose those magic points, and that's it, and then you cry. So we've tweaked that a bit. You can push the spell by spending extra magic points to turn a failure into a success, or you can leave it as a failure and you only lose half the points that you would otherwise have spent. So a test becomes not really a test to see if you manage to get the spell off, but a test to see how efficiently you can get the spell off.
Nice. Okay, we have a question from Temp that says,
Sorry, hold on. I want to also clarify that yes,
please.
the other thing is that we also have more spells than the default that you would just get taking the Arcana talent, right? So there are more than 2 spells per novice, for example, and more than 1 spell for each rank afterwards. Just had to get
Nice.
that.
Okay. Next question is from our friend Temp, who says, is the Envoy class for Fantasy Age 2nd Edition inspired by the Envoys from Blue Rose? I find that ironic because that class doesn't seem to exist in Blue Rose.
Well, I would say that Blue Rose initiated certainly some conversations about the role of social characters in age games. But I think what really did it was that Owen Casey Stevens said, well, the thing that's really missing here is something more like a face man. And, some of the age mechanics, we've developed some systems that are a little more social facing, right? That the Envoy can plug into. So, Owen advocated for and designed the Envoy class with the idea of filling that social niche, right? But, I would be remiss in not crediting Blue Rose for having some influence on that.
Yeah.
Because Blue Rose is a very chatty game.
Yeah.
Right. And one with a lot of social factors in it.
Nice. Fantastic. Let's see. Ever consider removing ability scores from the TN test?
No. Basically, the reason we don't is so that there is breadth and character competency. Right? Because focuses are narrower than abilities. If everything was left to focuses, then you would have, characters who were highly specialized, but might be very bad at a particular niche, right? Like, somebody who would, be great in a sword fight, but any hazard that required a test to get out of the way, that hazard would just smoke them, right? And if we're talking about, higher threat hazards, that means that you'll have a hazard that will affect nobody but that one guy who will get nuked. And we don't want that because that's not really the spirit of how Fantasy Age works, right? Or really how age games work generally. And it is a phenomenon that I've seen in the past with other games that are kind of point-based. You'd always get somebody who, when I ran a point-based game that I'm not going to name, I'd always get this one guy who would buy up their combat skills, but not have any social skills and not have any, someone who just basically couldn't scratch their butt or wear a hat but could stab you, right? And we generally just don't want that.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm reading the question. I don't know what FIG and ACC are.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure either. If you
Are you
can,
talking about fighting and accuracy? Are you talking about the fighting accuracy split? Okay, if you're talking about the fighting accuracy split, but it really messes with the rolling math of not having hit independent from damage value. I'm not sure what that means either.
we will file that away for to find you an answer. But in the interim, Tyler asks a good question, and with the introduction of the new Envoy, speaking of niches, with the introduction of the new Envoy in 2nd edition becoming the social class, how's the rogue changed, if any, in 2nd edition?
the rogue has become a little more exploration oriented as a character, right? Because now we have a more developed social realm, right? We're also able to build out exploration a bit. And the rogue really does get some advantages when it comes to doing those sorts of stunts for avoiding danger and being sneaky and things like that, right?
Gotcha.
And that was really kind of always where the rogue's expertise was, aside from being a nimble shooty fighty person. But we wanted to sort of promote that niche more. That doesn't mean that these things are super exclusive, because with the interaction of class stunts, we also have some options where characters can take class stunts outside their ordinary class, right? So if you wanted a socially focused rogue, you might take some specializations that support it, and you might later on take some envoy stunts in place of the normal rogue stunts. Generally, the class stunts are slightly better than the general stunts available to all characters.
I gotcha. Great. A quick question. We get this a lot, and I don't know if you want to kind of chat or share a little behind the scenes conversation related to just a generic space age.
Yes, we have done some chatting and preliminary design. Actually, there was a while where I was doing a whole bunch of prototype design for Space Age, and it was quite fun. And sometimes it ended up going to quite weird places for age design, right? Because basically, I just like to design stuff too much. Um, like I
Yeah.
had one thing where everywhere there would be a bunch of abilities that would have resistance values, and there would be an extremely abstracted um, system that united like degree of success and damage and a bunch of other things. And the thing is, I'm sure it would look like super fancy and nice, and people would be proud to own something with that kind of design sophistication. I'm just not sure how many people would have fun playing it, right? This is always one of the things with age design. Like, people will often talk about how, oh, well, the math says this, and this. Well, leaving aside the fact that people often misinterpret the role of math in game design, there's also the fact that sometimes people's desires are not rational, right? So quantifying them that way doesn't work. And I'll give you one example. So there is a mathematically accurate way, more mathematically accurate and faithful way of doing stunts than the game does. And one of those would be to replace the stunt die with the lowest die that you roll on a test. And if you get doubles, the lowest die that you roll becomes the stunt die, and that shows you how many stunt points you get. So what that would do is that would make 6 on the stunt die super duper rare, wouldn't it? Right? Because what would you need? You would need an 18. Right? Do you know who would enjoy playing that? Almost nobody. Right? So because what people generally want in actual playtest is they want variability of result, right? They want the ability not just to do cool things um, and earn cool things, but they also want you know they want a little more chaos. They want good things and bad things that are swingy and extreme to happen in a session, right? And the role of stunts in Age is generally to add that swingy punctuation. I think I talk about this like every time I'm on. That because we have a 3d6 based curve, there's a certain regularity of results. And the stunt die is designed to break that to a certain extent on the set of successful results, right? We could do, and actually there have been some designs that have been published. I think people were talking about a Dragon Age supplement from Cobalt Press, and there have been a few options in Modern Age Mastery Guide, and I think, and there's stuff coming up in Cthulhu Awakens, that they're, you can have swingy failures, but most of the time, like, people want to have that unexpected, hey, I can do this, experience, as opposed to just the regularity of success and failure. And they don't so much want to, like, every once in a while be like extra screwed by a failure, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. A question from Hydrara, who arrives just in time to ask about Fantasy Age Second Edition and the Age Creators Alliance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, day one, huh?
I'm not sure about day one because I do not work on the Creators Alliance Administrivia, but yes, that's definitely going to happen. And there's also going to be some loosening of the conditions.
That's right.
Has that happened already, Troy?
It has yet to happen. It will happen soon. We're going to get the fifth season stuff out of the way, and with the OGL and all of that stuff having gone down, there was a lot of delay in our process. But yeah, it'll be a loosening, more generous terms and understandings, and we've hinted at that a couple times.
And
but folks,
more access to the settings that we own.
That's right.
Too.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not going to be, so things like fifth season, for example, in Dragon Age are never going to be in the Age Creators Alliance because we don't own those. We license them. Right.
That's right. Yeah. And Duke asks, it'll probably coincide with the upcoming Orc and such. That's an independent, separate endeavor that, we are collaborating with. Our licensing for the Age Creators Alliance will get, we'll share the updates to that well before.
Orc is a bit of
independent
thing, that we can't really talk about right now because many things are in flux related to that.
Yeah.
Whereas we have kind of a better idea of what's happening with Age. With the Creators Alliance, for example, like basically the way it's going to work is if we own it, we're going to let you play in it to some extent or another. There are going to be some restrictions. Like obviously, we don't want anything that goes against our values as a company, which means that if you have some dumb alt-right take on Blue Rose, that's not gonna work. And for some other games, for example, for Cthulhu Awakens, the thing we're thinking of is we want you to do only original additions to the mythos, because everything to do with the Cthulhu mythos is an IP landmine. And when we made Cthulhu Awakens, we hired a consultant to help us through that, for example, right? So basically, if you're not referencing something that is in our book, not any other mythos source, our stuff, that's fine. But no conversions from any other mythos material. So you're either using our stuff or you're creating your own stuff.
Yeah.
Your own entirely original stuff. And honestly, that's true to the spirit of Cthulhu Awakens anyway.
Absolutely. And that information will be shared shortly and in due time, and you will be able to, wrap your heads around that and all of the requisite understandings, and we'll be sure to give everybody time to sort of process and ask their questions. So Derek asks, with the changes in Fantasy Age 2, do we feel that the power level of the game has increased? I'm primarily thinking about a need to adjust adventures and monsters I've been creating in Fantasy Age 1.
Not through most of the continuum of play. We have made characters a little more effective with along the lines of things like the amount of damage they inflict and master degree, some master degree abilities, and some stunts. We've also made some things more dangerous. Hazards do more damage now by rank. So all in all, no. But we have made a couple of things more powerful. But that is generally to address the full play cycle, right? Because as many people have pointed out, sometimes it feels a little whiffy to do damage against opponents because armor absorbs damage and because people have a fair amount of health, right? And so do a lot of monsters. So we actually, what I did, I happened to help out with this particular part, is we did a breakdown of what typical, making a few assumptions. We did a breakdown of what typical equivalent damage outputs by threat rating would be, right? And because threat ratings equate to level ranges, we can kind of balance them against each other. Now, the problem with making things absolutely balanced so that a character and monster who are balanced against each other and are more powerful are about as dangerous to each other at lower levels. The trouble with that is you kind of have the treadmill effect, and the treadmill effect is when you change the numbers, but there's no functional difference in play. So an example of that is that, I'm a 10 health dude fighting a 10 health goblin. And then I go up in level and I'm a 20 health dude fighting a 20 health goblin, except this time it's called a hobgoblin or something, right? The play experience doesn't actually change. So what good is it to level up, right? So, we'd want being able to do more damage and absorb more damage to remain meaningful improvements, right? So we build a slight lag in it, but we still kind of have that ladder. And what we kind of ended up with are the class abilities that allow for damage boosts at various levels, and those are key to the results we did doing some behind the scenes number crunching.
Excellent. Okay, so here's a question from Temp who says, Monty Cook Games had books detailing conversions between different settings that set up adventures. Will the Age games like Dragon Age or Blue Rose have supplements that do the same?
Well, we can't really tell you how to. Well, Dragon Age is a licensed game, so what we're able to do with that depends on whatever the licensing relationship is. And I am not a Dragon Age guy. I've never been involved in the design of Dragon Age, and I've never been involved in the Dragon Age IP besides playing the game. The first game and the third game, those are what I played. And but otherwise, generally, we don't do that for adventures so much, right? Because, well, a couple of reasons. First of all, generally our settings are very different from one other. I think the two most similar games will probably be Fantasy Age and Blue Rose, because they are generally in the realm of fantasy, right? But
we have talked in the past
when
about
we talk about conversions, we're doing it more for the things like hazards and antagonists and things like that, what their game traits are, but not for the not for the narrative lead-in, right? That's something where we don't want to hold your hand too much, right? Because we want you to be creative. Right?
And
there's demand for it, certainly we would think about it.
And we've talked in the past about how folks can incorporate, say, Cthulhu Awakens, pieces into Blue Rose and that kind of stuff. But
yes. And I have done some blog articles about mashup settings, for example, right?
That's right. Yeah.
like the Modern Age Blue Rose mashup that I did. Those were fun things to do, actually.
Yeah, they were fun. Those were a lot of fun. Let's see. Neil had a couple questions, and I'll wait for those two to pop up, my friend. Let's see. Yes, Hydra says, great to hear in these post-OGL situations that Green Ronin is supporting third-party things. Absolutely. We'll continue to. So Temp asks, so the maximum level is 20. Are there enemies and NPCs beyond that, and can players also go beyond level 20?
Oh, not yet, but who knows?
All right, here's one question from Neil. Will we be seeing the addition of Grandmaster and Apex specialization levels in the new edition, like in Modern Age? I've homebrewed these before
Same
for
answer.
players, and they really liked it.
Not yet, but who knows? The the guidelines from Modern Age, though, about designing your own will transfer to Fantasy Age fine. Any edition of Fantasy Age, or really any Age game.
Yeah.
For Cthulhu Awakens, we do have them embedded into the specializations, but not the talents, with the idea that kind of allows gradual deep role assumption for Cthulhu Awakens characters, right? And certainly I could see something like that working very well for Fantasy Age specializations. So, but I don't do the lead development for this game. So, while I think it might be a cool idea, the question is, does Ian think it would be a cool idea?
Right. And, oftentimes what influences what a developer will think is a cool idea is when cool players share that information and engage us on the topic. So duly noted. And when we get Ian on, you can certainly pepper him with those very same questions. Hey, real quick, I wanted to let folks know that today on Gen Con TV at 4 p.m. Pacific. Yeah, we will have. We'll be on Gen Con TV. Teslan is the producer, and you'll be able to see Chris Pramus and Hiromi Kota will be on there, and they will be talking 5th season RPG stuff. So check that out. 3:30 is the pre-show meetup. That's when they need to get on. And
Hiromi is a cool person. They work
Hiromi is the best.
Cthulhu Awakens as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. Neil says, sticking with specializations, we'll be seeing more class agnostic specializations being added.
Yes, a few have been added. One of the big ones is the Mariner and the kind of intertwined Mariner and Pirate specializations. Because we have the Stranger Shores kind of meta setting, we obviously want to push getting on a ship and doing cool things as a possibility for characters. So that is an all-class set of all-class specializations. I also want to go back to, I see a question from Tyler. Did any underpouring specializations from the Phage basic rulebook get a facelift? Yes, several of them did. Can I find? It's hard for me because I would have to have both books in front of me to be more specific. Whereas right now I have a draft PDF, draft layout PDF of the full game in front of me.
I think that you're looking that up as sort of messing a little bit with your audio.
Is it? Sorry. Well, then I'll stop looking. But or maybe it was that I made that doodaloo sound. Yeah, I can't give you a specific example off the top of my head, but yes, I did go. I went over the specializations personally, and help kind of tweak them out to sort of bring up some of the underperforming ones.
Nice. Now, do you want to touch base on? You've written up some. What was your last write up on Fantasy Age?
My last write up on Fantasy Age was about character advancements with a little chat about some of the damage tweaks that we have incorporated into the game.
Nice.
Or
Do
at
you
least
do
that
we
was the
want
last one
to
posted.
elaborate it? I'm sorry. Say that again.
Or at least that was the last one posted. You want me
Yeah,
to
yeah.
talk
Do
about
we
that
want
some
to
more?
elaborate a little bit on it, any of that? I think our audio is a little out of time.
Okay, hold on. Let me make my head bigger. That helps. Sorry. The weird angle you were seeing me is because my external camera doesn't work properly, and I have a repurposed business laptop which has the webcam on the bottom of the bezel. So that's why I'm looking down upon you all, and not because of my overweening pride. But to answer the question
Yeah.
that was posed long ago now, uh, some of the things we've done is we have collected, we've added some of the best of specializations from the companion. We've done sort of full mechanical reviews of all of the specializations, and we've added a couple of completely new ones as well. So, for example, there is the Necromancer from the companion, but the Necromancer has been, yeah, it is a Dell. Okay. Yeah, we've added the Necromancer, but we have kind of we've added some improvements, or what we see as improvements to what the Necromancer can do. For example, like the ability to come back from the dead as the master degree thing, which I thought was super cool. And we have some things like the heritage specializations. Those were brainstormed by the very cool Crystal Fraser, and basically you have the three options for specializations that are divine, infernal, and fey, and you can sort of work that background into your character by choosing those, and those are all class specializations, and they give you various special abilities.
Nice. Hydra asks, will the Fantasy Age second edition book be similar to the basic one where there were adversaries in it?
Yes, and there are more adversaries.
Nice.
All right.
You know,
And
speaking real quickly of adversaries, I want to share that we're going to try a new feature. We're going to do it live. It's called, we've got bestiary tokens for VTT,
yeah,
and
we
they are
do.
up. Yeah, they're up on Roll20 on Drive-Thru RPG and at the store.
Yep, Jonesy and the
And
crew getting it done.
if you give this give that QR code a snap with your phone, and you will be able to check that out, and we'll have links here very shortly. But it's a pretty big pack of creatures. 83 files. Let's see, 83 tokens for the following adversaries. Let me share this page because it is. Here we are. There
I
we
believe they're
go.
from the bestiary.
That's right.
However, uh, some of the monsters from the bestiary have been moved to the core book, and I think almost all of them are coming back in some form. So these tokens are not going to become useless, right? And also, 90% of the stat blocks from the old bestiary will continue to work, right?
That's right. Yeah.
The main thing is that when sometimes there will be a quality that will have a different name in the new edition, right? In that case, you read the mechanics, not the name. And some of the favored stunts might be different because we have changed what some of the basic stunts are.
Yeah, 83 tokens, 83 adversaries. That's pretty awesome. And now we'll spend the rest of the program. I will read off the 83 different adversaries. I'm kidding. But there you go, friends. 9.98.9. So not bad. Not bad at all. Check that out. And then if you're interested, we've got them over at Drive Through RPG as well. And I'll be dropping links in the chat. But yeah, it's nice to see also that folks are using that QR code. I dig that. Let's see. Derek asks if there's one thing you're most excited to see in players' hands for Fantasy Age 2nd Edition. Can you tell us what that is? Like something you can't wait to see what the folks do and
The
how
new
they play.
options for defeat. One of the big changes is that being dropped to 0 health doesn't mean you're dying anymore necessarily. Instead, the GM or the attacker determines whether you are dying, are unconscious, or have been rendered helpless, right? So you can be captured. And that opens up so many more possibilities for storytelling, right? We also have rules for different rules for the coup de grace move, which previously was, killing someone when they're down. But now you can do other things. For example, you can give someone a scar to remember you by.
Nice.
Right? Or an enemy can do that to you, and you can go seek revenge for it. And and I love the option of having those for a couple of reasons. The first is, again, more narrative possibilities. The second is being able to kind of tweak the genre emulation that you're using. So, you can have a grim game where, people always kill foes when they're down and stuff. Or you can have something that is a little more like that's a little more like a afternoon cartoon where, people get captured, but they don't get killed, right? Or you can have anything in between, right? So if you want to do the Xena Warrior Princess thing, where the main use of a sword is to block somebody else's sword and then knock them out with a kick, you can kind of emulate that in this game. Mind you, I may have just revealed how old I am by pretending that any of you have actually seen an episode of Xena Warrior Princess in the last 30 years, 25, 30 years. So if my teeth fall out during the rest of our time together, that's why.
We'll throw up a modesty shield for you real quick. I love that. A quick question from Jose asks, does Phage 2 have Fantasy Age 2nd Edition have Shackles and Jolly Roger stuff included?
We do have rules for Shackles, actually. In the equipment section, we do have specific rules for being chained up and how to get out. And that's stuff that I added when I was working on some of the equipment stuff, because I thought, if we are going to have more, stories revolving around capture and things like that, we need that kind of stuff to happen.
Nice.
Jolly Roger, though, we don't have rules for flags. I mean, you can get a flag. And if you mean literal Shackles and Jolly Rogers, well, that would make the book kind of expensive.
And heavy to ship.
And heavy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, what would a chakram be like? That's a good question. Sorry, I'm reading Duke's.
No, yeah. What does that mean? Chakram.
Yeah.
What are chakram rules?
Oh, what are chakram? Oh, well, a chakram is a throwing weapon of Indian South Asian origin that is a sharpened metal circle. And I don't think we have it. I would probably just use the stats for throwing a dagger until, of course, we add that to the weapons list at some point.
Gotcha.
Certainly that's one of the cool things actually with anchoring a lot of the implied setting stuff on the Stranger Shores concept is that we can have, you can sail to different cultures. You can sail to places where the cosmological rules are even different because of the kind of interdimensional nature of the Stranger Shores.
I gotcha. We do have a question from one quick second while I scroll back. Derek asks, are there any stunts tied to that new defeat system?
Oh, let me look that up and wreck the audio for a sec.
Hey, no worries. Let's go for it.
Hold on. Let me look at the bookmarks because those already are built into this one. Hal does a great job of adding these sorts of little features that you don't think about, but you would go mad if you didn't have them. Look at that. Sorry, there's so much stuff like the new optional rules for relationships and peril and daring and all that stuff that maybe I should be mentioning now. Maybe I'm just giving it away too soon. Here we are. Stunts. Maybe I'll look at go down to the warrior stunts. See if there's anything we got here. Yes. Well, no, not for the new defeats necessarily, but because of the new condition rules, for example, we have a stunt called Wounding Blow, where you can inflict the blinded, deafened, or scarred condition on your target for 5 stunt points if you're a warrior, which is bad to suffer. And let me see what we've got under Rogue.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's just when you are using your touchpad.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe it's the scrolling. Yeah, and of course, in the Rogue, for some of the conditions, we have Cruel Strike, which basically you can hit someone in such a way that it demoralizes them and gives them a condition. Confused, frightened, or defenseless.
I gotcha. So you hit them so hard, you shame them into feeling.
Yeah, you can knock the fight. You can knock the fight out of your enemy.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm checking the chat, and we do have a lot of folks who are like, "I am as old as you."
Yeah, people are just having that
Let's
bit of nostalgia over the old Chakram and Xena Warrior Princess.
That's right. Yeah. Neil asks, "Love to see some or mentions, love to see some more equipment rules being added. Are there any more pieces of equipment in the book with some new or added rules you can share details on?"
Well, Fantasy Age isn't supposed to be too heavy, so we really tried to keep that stuff to a minimum. And Chris Promise, who designed the age system, right, every once in a while has come in and maybe restrained me when I've gotten a little overzealous, and then we can have the immersion effect of this mechanic that mechanic does this. And then he kind of went, no, you just it has to be more straightforward than that. So yeah, a lot of the equipment don't really have special rules. Is it Pramus? Oh, geez. I'm sorry.
It's Pramus, rhymes with famous, yeah.
Well, so that's a mistake I've been making for years. Right. I can tell you one thing. There were a few situations where, we've added slings as weapons, so that's one thing. That was a common weapon that was notably absent, and also there was some separation between different weapons that were essentially the same. Like spears and certain lances are basically the same weapon. right? Because not all lances historically, or necessarily in the game, are, those big fluted things with the handle at the end. So, when you have a light lance, it's going to be a spear, right? So we have some
Yeah.
common sense things, and we've added some new weapons. And occasionally we firmed up some of the weapon descriptions to make them a little more general, right? To assure you that, for example, if you have a one-headed sword, it can be a medieval longsword, it can be a cutlass,
Gotcha.
right? As you like.
Now, Hadrara, you mentioned or asked, in case I missed it, was there a date announced for release, or is it still tentative end of February? Still tentative end of February.
Still tentative end of February.
We'll get it out there just as soon as we can, making sure that all of literally, the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. John
Yes.
mentions that he's happy to see that the Drac and the Wild Folk made it into the new edition.
Yeah, the
Absolutely.
Wild
Yeah.
Folk got renamed from Beast Folk just so that we could separate them from other things that are called Beast this and Beast that. And also we kind of make ourselves a little room to expand them conceptually, right? Like maybe we want to do plant people someday. Who knows?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Really want to thank everybody in the chat for their phenomenal questions, and also just to also just thank you for your patience and excitement about Fantasy Age second edition, and we're looking forward to getting that into your grabby hands ASAP. And yeah, so more news on that. So Malcolm, anything, we've got about 5 minutes left. Fungus driven people. Yeah. Yikes.
Yeah. I mean, you could conceive, like, we've redone the Wild Folk. Like, this is one of the things where we kind of compromised between detail and brevity, where we kind of made the creature types a little less specific and more based on the potential qualities they offer. But that same template could be like used for all kinds of things.
Yeah, I also stand. I love the Speary Lance and the Fancy Lance and the Flash Dance Lance, which
That's
lets you
right.
pose under a splash of water.
What a feeling.
Nice.
Take your lance
Very,
off and
very
make it
nice.
happen.
That's right. That's right. So, in the waning moments of the program, Malcolm, what's going on? Do you have other things to talk about? Other things like projects or stuff going on? A little insight into Malcolmville.
Well, I just finished doing the development for Cults of the Mythos, which was
Ooh.
one of the stretch goal items for Cthulhu Awakens, and that is some great stuff from Monte Lim, and there are some great cult rules that kind of draw upon how much weirdness the cult has encountered that were designed by Steve Kenson. And those allow you to, if you're a member of the cult, make use of special stunts and things. And there are a bunch of them. I think, there are a bunch of cults. And I just finished on that. I am working on doing kind of the final art notes and maps and polish for a couple of the Cthulhu adventures. And I am working on a game called Swords of the Shadow Planet that we talked about ages ago at a Gen Con and haven't mentioned since. And that is not an age game, and it is kind of a modern take on the planetary romance genre. And in a few months, maybe I can babble about that some more.
Nice. Okay. Looking forward to that. A reminder to everybody that in just about an hour, we're going to be over with our friends on Gen Con TV with Rem. It'll be Rules of Cool and with Roll with Rem Alternus. And we'll have Chris Pramus and Hiromi Kota, and they will be talking all about 5th season stuff. And so you definitely want to head on over there, let them know that you're drop the link in chat. Check that stuff out. But with that, I think we've covered it all, my friend.
Yeah, and I know where my pronunciation mistake came from. It's that weird in between A sound that Americans speak in when they say stuff.
Yeah, I think that's it.
You know, I don't know why you don't do proper and A, but here we are.
But here we are.
And now
you
I
know,
have to adapt.
Yeah, that's right. Each day we live, each day we learn.
Yes.
Malcolm, thank you so much. Hey, Miss A.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah. Hey, Malcolm, thanks for hanging out with us today and giving us all the details. Absolutely. We'll look forward to having you back again. Thanks to you, to everybody in chat. Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you, everybody, for your great questions. We'll be back on Monday with Mutants and Masterminds Monday. And every Thursday we're here with ThursdAGE. Right? All right, friends.
That
have a great
like
rest of your
to me. What is
ThursdAGE?
American.
Us Americans. All right, friends. We're out. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.